if you believe in it, you can do it. You just have to have that mindset.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello, it's Neil Ball. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures and successes. I am so excited to bring you our special guest today, Darren Robertson. But before I introduce you to him, I have a quote for you. Brian Greene said, "We are on this planet for the briefest of moments in cosmic terms, and I want to spend that time thinking about what I consider the deepest questions." The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions, so we all get the insight, inspiration and ideas to apply in our businesses. Darren, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
Hi, Neil. Thank you very much for having me on. Yes, I am. I can't wait to share the insight and knowledge that I have about business with you and your guests.
Thanks, Darren. Welcome to the show. Darren Robertson is a data specialist and is currently working on his second startup. His first startup was an educational platform called Primary Leap, and he is currently building Digitally Limited, a web analytics agency specialising in startups and small businesses. Darren, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Okay, where should I start? I suppose best thing to start off with is I currently run a web analytics organisation called Digitally. It's my second entrepreneurial go, really. I have another business that specialises in education for primary school children across the world, which is the first business that I really got started with. But I've always really had a passion about business and getting stuck in and mucking about with everybody else to try and generate a few pounds here and there, even as a very young child, Neil.
You still got both of the businesses?
I do indeed.
So can you just tell us about your web analytics business a little bit more?
So web analytics business is called Digitally Limited. It's the latest business that I've set up. We've been around for just over 3 years now. And really what we're looking to do is we're a business that's out there to help other small businesses succeed through the use of web analytics. It's something that we don't see enough of, especially here in the UK. Our businesses embracing the use of web analytics and digital in itself.
So when you talk about web analytics, how does what you do differ to, say, Google Analytics, which happens to share one of the same name at the end of it?
That's a really great question, Neil. And this is something that we find is quite a common misconception amongst small businesses. Google Analytics is only really part of the web analytics sphere. It's one tool amongst many that you need to use as a small business or a medium-sized business to really understand how you perform. So what we do is we work with businesses to develop that entire strategy and put the right tools in place to help businesses succeed through the use of web analytics, whether that be surveying tools or getting competitor information or looking at the voice of the customer. We help our clients to achieve all of this at the budgets that kind of suit them, depending on the size of their business.
So you're acting as like an advisor of how to collect the data rather than providing another platform for collecting the data. Would I be right in understanding that?
So it's really a combination of both. So yes, we work on a consultancy role with clients and provide platforms from companies that we work with, our partnership network, as you could call it. We also produce our own platforms as well. So we are currently working with a whole bunch of UK charities, and this is a really exciting project to help them better understand how they are performing against one another within their sector. So this is actually a brand new platform, analytics platform, that actually allows all the UK charities to have a look at how they're performing against each other, rather than letting them try to benchmark themselves maybe against worldwide charities or just the US, which is essentially what is available out there for them to be able to get through search engines like Google.
And your other business that specialises on education for primary schools, can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Of course, Neil. So we also have a web-based business called Primary Leap. We specialise in creating downloadable PDF worksheets based on the UK British curriculum. We found that the UK curriculum is something that people want the world over. And our research has shown that essentially people want to get their kids learning English as quick as possible, because it's the language of business. So they want to be able to get their kids learning from day one. So we created Primary Leap. I created that with actually my brother, and my mum got involved as well, because my mum used to be a teacher. So she helped us to structure the business and produce all of the content that we have. And now what we do is we have a subscription service, and we have people from all over the world teaching their kids based on the latest techniques and core curriculum content for anybody the world over at a really reasonable price. And that's really important to us, to make it really accessible to absolutely everybody.
Mm-hmm. So is it parents who are mainly accessing that?
It's a combination of parents, and we see a lot of teachers as well. We also have a community of hospitals and other organisations like that as well, where kids may be staying where they need to also continue their educational needs. So we supply that as well for those sorts of groups.
What do you enjoy most about what you do, Darren?
I think what I enjoy most really is the challenge, Neil. I think the challenge for me is what I really thrive on. I actually prefer the startup part of being an entrepreneur more so than when the business is running itself. So as to say, so for me, it's that intense moments before you're established. That for me is what really drives me. That's something that I'm really passionate about. It's that kind of stressful moments and that pressure. For me, that I find that very exciting. It's about doing what it is that I want to do, being in control of where I want to go. So at the moment, for me, that's helping the UK small business community to really develop, to try and help other people do as well as I'm doing at the moment, and to help push those businesses forward. For me, that's what I really enjoy.
So when you aren't doing all of this, how do you relax?
Well, being a very tech-orientated person, the first thing that I do if I need to relax is get away from the technology. I'm very lucky. I live quite close to the countryside here in Hertfordshire, and at any opportunity I can get when I could get a break is I'll get down to the lake or I'll get down to the canal, maybe do a little spot of fishing, turn off all of that communication devices and just relax.
That's quite relaxing, that. So do you have any entrepreneurial role models?
Yeah, I have a lot. I think it's a combination of both, really. I have entrepreneurial role models, and I think there are just people that have really pushed me to be the person I am in business. I would say I quite like James Caan. I quite like how he's worked. I like what he's done. I would say he's definitely a role model, along with Richard Branson. I think Richard Branson was probably one of the very first businessy books that I read on leaving senior school, and I found that really inspiring. But I also really strongly believe in mentoring, and I have a mentor from Rackspace, and I would say he really is inspirational to me, and somebody that I really look up to.
So when you talk about a mentor, what do you get from having a mentor?
For me, it's a reassurance net from somebody who's very, very successful in a very large international business. It's somebody that I can go to just talk to about my business in a bit more detail than maybe I would want to do with my partner. Bless her, she's absolutely brilliant, and we talk all the time about the business and what have you. But sometimes you just need somebody else that you can have that conversation with, somebody who's been running a large business for a very long time. So really for me, it's about sharing some of my ideas and just making sure that I'm on the right track for myself. Somebody just to say, hey, yeah, that is correct to what you're doing. That is the way that I would do it. It's just kind of a reassurance net for me, and a growth as well, very much in terms of being a leader within a business. So Digitally Limited, this is quite a new concept for me, is to completely work remotely. So Digitally Business is all the people who work for us work remotely from their own locations, not only within the UK, but across other countries as well. So being a leader within your business, and for me in a digital business like that, is quite a new thing. There is definitely a way to run a completely remote business. And I think sometimes I really need help with guidance on how to really get the most out of everybody who's working with me, and being able to have that mentor to go back and talk to, who's also in a very big tech organization with a lot of remote working staff, really helps me to be able to look at that.
And have you had a mentor for quite a while?
Yeah, I have actually. It's been a good couple of years. I think before that as well, I've always had a mentor, a businessy mentor in my life. I mean, this sounds very cheesy almost, but my father has always been a real business mentor for me, and he's been very successful throughout his life. He's had many businesses, and I think really when you have somebody like that in your life and you see that day in, day out, and you can have those really long conversations about what he's done over his life business-wise, I find that very inspiring, and for me, that's really important as well.
You see, a lot of people don't have, a lot of business owners don't have mentors, or I don't think they do. So it's just interesting that you've got one. So I assume it's something that you would recommend that everybody has.
Oh, I would most definitely agree with that. I think what it stems from is really my relationship with a very large American community. I have a lot of contacts over in the States. I speak to a lot of business people over in the States, being such a big tech community over there. And I think some of that has honestly rubbed off on me now. And I have always been told by the American community, get yourself a mentor. That's the best thing that you can do. Have somebody that you can sit down and talk to, somebody who's done what it is that you want to do, somebody who's achieved what you want to achieve, and use them as a sounding board. Have conversations with them to steer where it is that you're going, so you don't necessarily make all the same mistakes that they make.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, Darren, you talked about also employing all of the people that work for your business remotely. How do you manage that? Because obviously it could work quite well, but potentially it might not work so well if you've got somebody who's not doing their job properly. So how do you ensure that they do deliver what you want them to deliver, the people that work for you?
It's a really interesting question. I think there are several things that you need to really do if you run a completely online business with remote working. And I think it's the initial thing is you have to have some form of really solid infrastructure in place that everybody can utilize. I think that is the first biggest hurdle that you really have to overcome is making sure everybody's using the same apps, the same tools. It's very easy to start embracing tools left, right, and center. So somebody that you work with might be on Skype, somebody else might be on Slack, somebody else might only work through email for you. You have to make sure that that entire infrastructure is in place and that everybody's on board using these same tools. I like to use the time management tool with everybody that we work with. That really helps because when you log in and start using it, I can delegate tasks to all the teams, and anybody else in the management structure can delegate tasks to everybody. You know what people are working on. You can see how much time is being taken. We work very much with our clients to build extranets that they interface with, so everybody in the team is always interacting with the clients as well. That's really, really important. So that helps to produce that culture of working online and gets that working really well. The next thing really is you have to have trust in the people that you employ. So whilst our main core staff here at Digitally is a very small team, we employ a lot of people on an ad hoc basis to work on specific projects. And for us, that really works. That doesn't work for every business. But in our industry, especially web analytics, I actually prefer to get somebody who specializes in a core technology to work for me on a specific project than actually trying to employ an all-rounder who can work in this technology, that technology, another technology. To get best value for money, I want to employ the best of the best. So we very much have a robust freelance community that we go back to time and time again because they have proven to deliver. We always start our new freelance team members off on relatively small internal projects to see how they work and ensure that we're getting the best value out of them and they're getting what they want as well. Because that remote working isn't for everybody. Not only is it, not for every business, it's not for every employee either. So it's about working that out. Once you're happy with that person and the way that they work and you can trust that they can get on with it, then really you rely on that whole infrastructure. And we're all linked via several tools all the time. So we're always staying in contact. It is like sitting next to somebody in the office here, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because obviously the management of it is presumably the key to it, and it's something that could work incredibly well because obviously you can save a huge amount of overhead by not having premises and all the related costs that go with them. But you've then got this, as long as you can manage the people and keep control over it, then it sounds like a fantastic way of running your business. So that's fantastic. Darren, what I'd like to do now is talk to you about the time before you were an entrepreneur.
Yes.
What difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
Cool. There were a few, Neil. There were most certainly a few. I think for most people up and down here, definitely in the UK, I think there's a nervousness about stepping outside of the box. I think it can be all too easy to rely on a regular paycheck coming in. And I think stepping away from that comfort zone, I think that's a scary thing for most people to do. I definitely found it scary to start with. Absolutely. I can't begin to try and describe how nervous I was about stepping away from that comfort zone of working 9 to 5, regularly having that structure. I think for me, that was a real big one. And I think it's about having faith in yourself. For me, I was quite nervous originally about stepping out. Didn't have that faith that I needed before I went out to do these sorts of things. So I think that's kind of probably one of the biggest fears that I had to overcome. I think fear is the answer that you're looking for from me. Is I had a lot of nervousness originally, and I had to overcome that myself. Financing, obviously, is something that everybody can relate to. And to be honest with you, you don't need a massive amount of money to start a business. And I had to get over that misguidance that I'd had, that you need to have a large amount of money to set up a business. That's, in this day and age of digital, that's not necessarily true. I hope, yeah.
So when you talk about fear being the thing that was the big thing that you overcame, and I suspect that's the case for quite a lot of people, what was it that pulled you over that made you go fight through that fear and do it in any case?
For me, it was networking. It was going and talking to other business people beforehand. It was about doing my research and my homework. For me, that's a really important part of anybody's pre-business journey, is making sure that you do the right research and spend your time on the right things and not the wrong things. So for me, that was networking with a tech community in the States. It was learning from other people. Previously to setting up Primary Leap, I had moved to Spain. Now, I'd been over in Spain for a few years, and I actually got to meet somebody who really just showed me that actually, if you just do a bit of thinking, anything's possible with digital. And he set up some amazing websites. He's a multi-millionaire, a very young guy, under 30. And I just sat down with him. He became a good friend of mine. And for me, it was just talking it through with him. And he was like, well, if that's what you want to do, what's it going to take to get you there? What is the smallest amount of money you need to get to that point? What amount of time do you need before you've got a product to market? And it was just having those conversations, those sensible conversations, and encouragement by another entrepreneur who was willing to share that knowledge and information and to give me that encouragement. I think that encouragement is the spark that every young or every entrepreneur needs, is somebody to say, yes, you can do it. And just to help you, guide you through that. Make sure that you're not making stupid mistakes. Obviously, you know, setting up a business that is most definitely not going to work from day one is not a good idea, obviously. But it's about having somebody that can see your ultimate plan, what you want to do, and is willing to kind of guide you a little bit. And for me, that's all I needed, was that little push, and somebody to say, yeah, well, why don't you look at this? Why don't you use this tool to help you get there? Why don't you go and teach yourself this? And for me, that's what I needed, was just that little nudge over the edge.
And did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
Yeah, I think everybody goes through that phase. And I think that's a good thing to have. I think it's important to question yourself regularly if you're doing the right thing. Otherwise, how can we all expect to grow? For me, I think I spent quite a lot of time going, is the content right? Have we got enough content? Is this ready to launch? And I had to just get over that. And for me, it was just when my friend turned around and said, you could be waiting forever to see if your content is ready. You just have to know that it is ready and do it. And you need to say, you need to say, this is exactly when we're going to launch. This is exactly when the product is right and fit to get people in. Otherwise, I could have been stuck there going, oh, I could tweak this. Oh, I could tweak that. Because I'm very analytical in the way that I look at things. There's always something else that I can see that can be improved. And for me, it was just getting over that.
And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
Marketing for sure was a big issue to get started. Obviously, with very large competitors, well, semi-competitors out there in the marketplace, from a branding perspective and from an actual physical product perspective, with fairly large budgets devoted to marketing, it was difficult to get started, and it took definitely longer than I had envisioned. And I think that was a short-sightedness on my part that I think a lot of want-to-be entrepreneurs and new entrepreneurs make. And I think everything can be done quicker than it can be. And I learned a real lesson from that. Mm-hmm. And I promised myself I wouldn't make that mistake again. And touch wood, I'm touching wood right now, I've not made that mistake with Digitally. And the next business that I set up, I hope I don't make that same mistake either. Because I think it's all too easy to fall into, do you know what, we can be up and running and everything's going to be great in 6 months' time. And obviously with digital being the way it is, slippages happen, things change quite rapidly in the marketplace. And it's just allowing yourself that extra bit of time is really, really, really important.
What are some of the things that you did before you started your business that would be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken the first step on the entrepreneur way?
I think it's do your research, do your homework before you put anything into a new venture. Make sure you really check out your marketplace. Make sure you really think about how you build your business from a digital perspective. I think it's very, very easy for people to get swept up in digital marketing and lose serious amounts of money. I've seen hundreds of thousands of pounds being wasted in businesses every single year on digital marketing and digital social media marketing and not having a real control and grasp. So for me, it's about making sure that you really do your homework, see who your competitors are, make sure you're checking the likes of Google and Bing and the other searches, see what's out there. What are the keywords for your business? What content is out there that relates to what it is that you're doing? And just to really analyze that and make your decisions based upon as much data as you can, because the more data centric you become as a business, especially as a young business, the better off I think you're going to be for the future.
Darren, what I'd like to do now is just talk about the entrepreneurial journey a little bit more with you. Do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
I think it is. I think it's extremely important. I think that changes depending on the type of business that you're in as well, that whole business culture. I mean, Digitally is very different to, let's say, Primary Leap. Primary Leap, we have a space where we've got people working all together. It's a very different atmosphere. It requires a different way of thinking to essentially how we run Digitally. That whole core values and principles of a business that you live by are hugely, hugely important. And I think that plays a massive part in the culture of your business. Everybody that we work with are data centric, and that's because that is embedded into our business philosophy. Data comes first Digitally. It is the most important thing that we supply to our customers, no matter what it is that they want. You know, everything that we do is based on data. And for us, it's also, the culture of putting the customer first. We truly do put our customers first. We have lots of relationships with vendors to ensure that actually what we do is we make sure that we find the right thing for the right client at the right time. And that, for me, is really important. Those principles that our business are built upon, that whole business culture, how we work together, when we spend time together, even how we relax together as a team, is really, really important. Now, that obviously with Digitally is hugely complex because we have, as I said before, we have people all over the place that we work with. But the core team is really important. Although we may not sit next to each other in an office, it's really important that we all get together and we do the things that happen in normal, big, large businesses where you've got lots of people working in an office. It's really important that we have a Christmas party, or that we, bring people together to celebrate success within the business. So for me, yes, culture is really, really important in business.
Knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started out would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
I don't think I could shortcut the learning curve, to be honest, but would I do things differently? For sure. I think, what business you get into this day and age, I think there's always going to be a learning curve. There is always something new to learn. There is always something new being developed. There is always some new form of technology that we need to embrace. I think for me, it's just, I wish I'd been a little bit more open-minded to tools and technology right at the beginning of my journey with Primary Leap that I have now. I think that would have helped me out a lot. I think that would have saved me time, rather than saving me, like shortcutting the learning journey as such.
And how much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business?
I mean, there's always an element of that gut feeling, and I do have to go with what my gut says, but we rely, especially within digitally, we rely heavily on the data. Data is everything for us. So I would say it's probably 75-25. It's got to be at least 75% on the data within digitally and a 25% gut feeling. I think myself in what I think is right for the business. That's my gut feeling, but everything is generally backed up with some form of data. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It's not a surprising answer for somebody who's got an analytics company, though.
No. But I would definitely, going back to that though, Neil, and I think, because that's a really complicated question for me, because it's kind of a little bit unfair, because I am just so data orientated with digitally. But I suppose with Primary Leap, yeah, there's a lot of gut feeling that goes into that. And I think you have to. I don't think whilst data is also heavily used there because of my influence on that, I think there is way more gut decisions being made in Primary Leap than I would say within digitally limited. And I think that's good for the business. I think, for us, it's when do you embrace new parts of the British curriculum? It's changing so rapidly all the time. There are things that you just can't necessarily do. You have to follow your gut as to whether or not that is the right decision for the business at the moment, because it could result in quite a heavy investment needed to generate content. I mean, I'm sure you're aware coding is being introduced into our primary schools here in the UK. Is that something we should be doing on Primary Leap? Probably not at the moment. I don't think it's established enough, and that's my gut feeling. And I think the rest of the management team would agree with me in that statement, that you have to just think about it in that sort of way. Whereas obviously with digitally, it is really heavily data focused.
Yeah. Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not. And many people say the only constant in life is change. Darren, how do you try to keep up with change?
Well, I have really had to learn to embrace change. Digitally Limited has taught me that we live in a very, very fast-paced world. For me, everything is changing all the time around me. New tools are being developed. I get probably about 20 emails a day about new technology in my inbox. So I've really had to learn to embrace it. I think digital disruption is good for business. That's how I'm going to see it. Change for me is digital disruption. And I think you just have to embrace it. And roll with the punches, really. It's about making sure that you're keeping up with everybody else, but you have to be really careful about what you choose to embrace. I don't think you can embrace everything. I think you have to pick and choose which battles are right for your business.
Yeah. Bit of gut instinct coming in there, I think.
Yeah, I think that again is where that tiny bit of gut instinct in digitally definitely comes across. Social media is a great example of that. How many social media platforms are there out there, and how many new social media platforms are developing every day? I get asked to become members of little business networking apps that are supposed to be lead generation and things like that every single day. And they're supposed to be a social environment and a social tool for business users. And I can't embrace everything, Neil. There's just too much out there. But I think it's about doing your due diligence and kind of getting a flow with which ones to go with. And it's having conversations with people like you and your listeners and kind of trying to understand what it is that they're using. I'm a big advocate of meetup.com and finding local business networks where you can get time with people and discuss things like this. I think that's really important for any entrepreneur.
Absolutely. What is your favourite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
Yeah. Well, I have quite a bit of a library right next to me, Neil, to be quite honest. I'm actually, as I'm talking to you here, I'm just scanning the many shelves of tech books and business books that I have by the side of my desk. And I suppose there's a couple, really. I think the Richard Branson book, for me, really stands out in my mind. The very first autobiography that he did, for me, that although, would I read it again tomorrow? I probably wouldn't, but it sits there on my shelf because it has great sentimental value, because really that helped push me into that way of thinking and to determining being determined myself to want to become an entrepreneur. So I think I would recommend that to any young person to read. I think that's a really good book for a young person. Maybe somebody who is still in senior school, who's building some sort of little startup in his bedroom on his computer. I think that's a wonderful book to read, because I think it's really inspiring to show that if you believe in it, you can do it. You just have to have that mindset. And I think another book really would be Seth Godin's Tribes. I think that's really, really good. That for me was a big eye opener to understanding about how to leverage the power of people, not only in your own business, but your followers, your social media advocates, anybody else that you come into contact with in your business life. I find that a very useful book, and I would recommend that to anybody.
Everybody, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you're at the gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you're not already signed up, then you will qualify. Darren, what I'd like to do with you now is speculate about the future a little bit with you.
Yeah.
What one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
Oh, that's a really great question, Neil. I suppose for me, it would be to take not only the business, but the grounding principles of digitally to other countries. I'm really, really big advocate of helping young people. I'm inspired by the young people of today and how intelligent and how clever and the amazing things that I'm seeing being built from a technology standpoint every single day in people's bedrooms. And for me, I just want to help as many young people really get started in their business life, on their entrepreneurial journey. And for me, if I could take that part of my business to every country and help as many people as I could and still be profitable in doing that, that for me would be where I'd want to go.
What skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
Oh, I'm going to be really lame here, Neil, and I'm going to have to say an extra me. I could really do with just an extra me. I don't know. What? I'm really unsure about that one. I don't know. What skill would help me the most? I suppose for me, it would. The skill that I need. Well, there's a skill. I suppose, Neil, there's a skill that I really need for myself, which is probably to let go more, to devolve more things. I like to be involved in everything that I'm doing. I like to be really hands-on in the business. I'm not a part of a management structure that likes to step away and give orders as such. I really like to be hands-on with everybody else in the business. So the skill that I could do with the most is actually somebody helping me to be more hands-off, and allow people to kind of take over some of those responsibilities. But yeah, I suppose that's what I could really do with the skill set that I really need.
In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
Oh, I'd love it to say how digitally had helped them to increase their business, to essentially make digital their ally. I mean, that's the core part of digitally. If you've ever seen our logo, you'll see how it's split up, how we split our logo, the font into two colours, because really, for us, the ultimate thing that any customer can ever say to anybody is that digitally helped make digital our ally for our business.
We're now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets with us. Darren, what is your favourite quote and how have you applied it?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't actually have a favourite quote. It's really, for me, it's about life lessons. I pick up on so many things. There are so many things that have really driven me to be where I am. I couldn't sum it up really in just a quote. But what I would say is really, it's about having faith in yourself. That's one of probably the biggest nugget that I could give to anybody who wants to start on their entrepreneurial journey is have faith in yourself. And remember, life is a lifelong learning experience. Don't expect to know everything from day one, because you're not going to. And be prepared to change. We all have to grow. So do our businesses, and we have to grow with our businesses. For me, that's really, really important. Not only do you need to grow professionally, but you need to grow personally at the same time. There's a lot to be said about the things that I do that are part of my work day that never happen within the work environment. The time that I take in the mornings and the evenings to really spend on myself and my own personal well-being, from sitting and meditating to doing some form of like yoga. That for me is really, really important, and making sure that you have that balance of, between business, home life, and that mental development. And I suppose the third for me would be that don't be afraid of failure. All too often, failure has this horrible connotation with it. But we believe we are only human. We do fail sometimes. That is inevitable. It is human nature that we sometimes get it wrong. And it's just about embracing failure and to learn from it and to use that to build yourself into a better entrepreneur. Don't be afraid of it not working, because it's going to be far worse for somebody to stick it out to try and not let it fail than to let it fail and move on quickly on to the next thing. And I think that's really important. It's about understanding when to let go.
And do you have a favourite online resource that you can share with us?
I have quite a few of those. to be quite honest, I mean, from my standpoint, as somebody who particularly likes the way the American business market is, I very much like entrepreneur.com as an online resource. I think it's a great place to find articles, especially motivational articles. I think there's a few entrepreneurs that I know that have had a few low times, and inevitably when I know that I feel that they need a little perk up, I will find a post somewhere on that site that says somewhere on the lines of, there is light at that end of the tunnel. As if you do this, this and this, and you just push and persevere, you will manage to get through it. And for me, those moments are really important. And I want to support, the entrepreneur community, and anybody who knows me and has interacted with me online in that manner will know that I'm the first one to be, hey, look, don't give up. Don't give up yet. You can do it. You might need to tweak something. You might need to stop doing this or that. You may need to start a new project, but you can do it. You can succeed. I have faith in you. Yeah.
What is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
To persevere. I think you have to be a particular type of person. You need to be a strong person to be an entrepreneur. I think anybody who's starting out on that journey, it's probably not what you're thinking. You have to be a bit crazy to jump on this brilliant train ride with us, because it is a bit of a roller coaster. For me, I had to give up 9 to 5. I work way more hours than most people, but that's what you have to do. You have to do what you have to do to make your business a success. You have to put in those long hours. And I think it's just about understanding and be prepared for that. It's not going to be an easy journey. If it was really easy, absolutely everybody would be doing it. It is difficult. It does take a lot of time. There is a lot of blood, sweat and tears involved, but it's worth it. If you can stick at it, it's the best thing that you could do for yourself. And that's my biggest advice, Neil, is you have to just persevere.
Yeah. Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Darren's favourite resource or his favourite books, then you can find the links on Darren's show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Darren or Darren Robertson in the search box. Darren, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
Well, as I said, we are here to help young, small startups, whatever size business you're at. If you are in the UK, we would really love to hear from you. Just to have a conversation, and we're going to be putting out some content on our website really soon, some polls and stuff, because we want to get a bit more of a better understanding from the business community that are listening to your show. We want to know more about how we can help them with their analytics journey and help them build really successful businesses. So that's what we would really like.
Thank you, Darren. Darren, it's been an honour having you on the show. It's really been great hearing about your enjoyment of the challenge of the startup, and running a business remotely is something that has been fascinating to learn about, and how you've overcome fear, and the advice you've given. It's all been great stuff, and I'm sure everybody will get a lot of useful information out of what you've said today. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
No, thank you very much, Neil, for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I feel absolutely honoured to be invited to come and talk with your listener group, to share some of the experiences that I've had along my journey. And by no means, my journey is nowhere near over. There are many more things that I'm yet to do.
You're welcome, Darren. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.